information.
But ask.
Me, I have still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much, had I?
Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I didn't call you. I just visited IPCP, where the engineers told me everything about Trasacco fast floor.
Trahuanko, please, those people are expensive. Are they not the people building those big houses in town? I beg going to catch an eye.
Madam, in fact, I used to think the same until I visited their office today, and they gave me an estimate of how much it will cost. No, the estimate is real. It's cheaper than the one I even sent you.
Wow.
Building contractors, foremen, masons. Visit IPCP, the Trasacco Fast Floor. Engineers will assist you build an affordable, faster, and stronger building.
Oh, madam. It is done.
Wow.
Trasacco Fast Floor. Stronger, faster, and affordable.
This is a Trasacco construction product.
Trasacco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trasacco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community of Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trasacco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call on 055 659 2658.
Hello? Okay, why? My wife comes and I send a message you. Your office is almost free. Hello? I didn't know what's happened?
It's a chunk who's will be a quiet say what? I dare say,
My side friend, I'm so years. You are not testing messages here. And my office also. I'm trying to tell you, man. She says, I
mean, so we a guy man and may young who could look cry. And also wants a family drilling company limited for Kana.
What's it then? Family Dwelling Company Limited.
Ye two borehole, biofuel, biogas, swimming pool, plumbing works in Naso, ye be, Frey 0240 333 111 and NASA 0244 144 822.
Miampa and you want swimming pool me see. Me want to will be here. Family drilling now. Family drilling.
The fast is your last shit.
Me out with that shit.
African Center for Capacity Building, AFCA, organizes the following executive and advanced certificate programs like Executive Certificate in Project Management, Executive Certificate in Human Resource Management, Executive Certificate in Real Estate and Property Management, Executive Certificate in Data and Records Keeping, Executive Certificate in Monitoring and Evaluation, Executive Certificate in Logistics and Transport Management, Executive Certificate in CCTV Monitoring and Installation. AFCA, where capacity building is our priority. For registration and enquiries, please call 0244 405047, 0242 135523. We have our branches in Accra, Tamale, Kumasi, and Wa. Saturdays and weekdays sessions are available. Admission is still in progress. Enroll now. Join the African professionals. AFCAP, where capacity building is our priority.
Oh, it's incredible! Bang on target!
Hello there, good afternoon. It's Friday, the 4th day of February 2022. You are watching Pan-African Television News. My name is Ivy Abnadide Nakite, live across 46 African countries and some part of Europe. We're live on Facebook at Pan-African Television. Coming up in the next 1 hour, President Akufo-Addo condemns AU for Burkina Faso suspension from its operations. Also coming up, ruling military in Burkina Faso cooperating with ECOWAS to return to constitutional order. FBN Ghana pleads for extension of directives on using Ghana card as the only authorized model for transaction. We are bringing you details of these stories and many more, including stories in the world of business, sports, international and entertainment. Don't go anywhere. For choosing to stay with us. The news in detail. Chairman of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, His Excellency the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has commended the African Union (AU) for suspending Burkina Faso from participating in AU organs and institutions as means of addressing the growing wave of coup d'etats. Now he further called on ECOWAS member states to stand firm as the resurgence of coup d'etat is challenging the existence of democracy and freedom in the sub-region.
Your Excellencies, heads of state and government, members of the authority of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, Chairperson of the ECOWAS Council of Ministers, President of the ECOWAS Commission, President of the UEMOA Commission, Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel region, the representative of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, the head of MINUSMA, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with a heavy heart that I welcome all of you today back in Accra after our virtual meeting last week. I want to thank you for your presence in this extraordinary summit, which will focus on the emerging threats in our region that stem from the military interference in Mali and its contagious influence in Guinea and Burkina Faso. Fortunately, the attempt 2 days ago to overthrow the democratically elected government of President Umaru Sissoco Embalo of Guinea-Bissau by a military coup failed, and the would-be putschists are being rounded up as we meet. I speak for all of us when I applaud President Embalo for sustaining the validity of the democratic institutions of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. Your presence here is a strong indication of your willingness to find a sustainable solution to the resurgence of the canker in our region. Let us address this dangerous trend collectively and decisively before it devastates the whole region. Excellencies, the resurgence of coup d'etats in our region is a matter of grave concern. This evolution challenges the democratic way of life we have chosen. We need to stand firm to protect democracy and freedom in our region. You'll recall that during our virtual summit held on the 28th of January 2022, we suspended Burkina Faso from participating in ECOWAS's institutions and requested the immediate release of President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore, who was detained alongside other political actors. During our summit, we reaffirmed our commitment to upholding the principle of zero tolerance for ascending to power through unconstitutional means, and therefore demanded an immediate restoration of constitutional order by the military. To assess more accurately the security and political situations in Burkina Faso, we agreed to dispatch 2 missions, respectively, the Committee of ECOWAS Chiefs of Defense Staff, led by the Ghanaian Chief of Defense Staff, on Saturday, 30th January 2022, and a joint ministerial delegation led by the chairperson of the Council of Ministers, the Ghanaian Foreign Minister, including the President of the Commission and the UN Secretary General's representative for the Sahel and West Africa, on Monday, 31st January 2022. Their reports have been submitted for our consideration. Excellencies, I commend our continental body, the African Union, on its firm decision to suspend Burkina Faso from participating in AU organs and institutions, in alignment with the decisions of the ECOWAS Authority on the situations in Mali and Burkina Faso. The African Union expressed strong support to the efforts of ECOWAS in addressing peace and security challenges facing the region, including the resurgence of military coups. This is the solidarity and international coalition that are needed to halt the political turbulence in our region and the continent at large. Excellencies, in this extraordinary summit, we'll also examine the recent development of the situations in the Republic of Guinea and the Republic of Mali. I hope that our discussions will provide informed decisions that can reverse the deteriorating political trajectory in our region, characterized by democratic setbacks and the fragility of our security systems. I wish us fruitful deliberations and hereby bring the opening ceremony of this extraordinary summit to a close.
Now, after a closed-door meeting, the ECOWAS Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has asked the ruling military in Burkina Faso that seized power last week to rapidly propose an election timetable, a document that will facilitate the restoration of constitutional government. Now, the president of the ECOWAS Commission, Jean-Claude Bruce, said on Thursday, February 3, 2022, that there was no need to impose more sanctions against the military that deposed Burkina Faso President Roch Marc Kabore, as they have shown interest of working with ECOWAS towards the restoration of constitutional order.
So, in looking at the situation after the presentation of the report of the 2 missions that gave more information from their contact with the military junta in Burkina Faso, the head of state looked and took several decisions. The first decision that they took was to still decide to maintain the suspension of Burkina Faso from all ECOWAS institutions, to reaffirm the condemnation of this coup d'etat, and they also requested the immediate release of President Roch Marc Kabore, release without condition. And on this point, the head of state were very, very firm, because they are expecting really this to be done very, 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 very quickly. And finally, still regarding Burkina, the head of state decided to request the current military authorities to MPSR to very rapidly propose a timetable for the restoration of constitutional order. So this is really, in a nutshell, what has been discussed and concluded by the head of state regarding Burkina Faso. Today, they really stress that it is really important that we stop this coup d'etat, military coup d'etat, because those create more problems than they solve. It is against, as I indicated earlier, basic principle of ECOWAS Protocol on Good Governance and Democracy, because this protocol is based on the principle that really power is only attained through election, democratic election. That's the basic principle. And secondly, he also asserts that reaching power through non-constitutional means is totally forbidden, and that the military is non-political is a non-political institution, so cannot be involved in those type of action. So it was a very, very strong condemnation, and of course they were really very closely linked to that, concerned to what has happened 2 days ago in Guinea-Bissau, because as you know there was a coup attempt in Guinea-Bissau, and the authority firmly condemned that, and also gave the full support and solidarity to the President Umaru Sissoco Embalo, who was able to really manage to restore the situation, and also to the whole people of Guinea-Bissau. In fact, the authority decided really to send a stabilization force in Bissau to help in maintaining the stabilization of the country. So this is something that we will do very, very rapidly to ensure that those type of attempt of a takeover by the military by force really is not really accepted.
In the case of Mali, the Economic Community of West African States said they regretted that another military government in neighboring Mali has yet to present an acceptable path to return to a constitutional order which could lead to the easing of sanctions.
Accepted. As I indicated, they also discussed the situation in the Republic of Mali. On Mali, the head of state they regretted that so far they have not received yet a timetable that is acceptable. As you recall, there was a timetable that was provided on January 8, 2022, but the head of state decided this timetable was not acceptable for the election. So they were expecting a new one, and so far they have not received it. So what they have decided is to really invite the transition authority in Mali to provide a new timetable that will be acceptable to ECOWAS, and that will allow the gradual lifting of the sanctions that were imposed on January 9, 2022. Because those sanctions, again, were imposed because the Malian authority, for two reasons. The Malian authority failed to implement the agreed timetable, which called for election at end February 2022. That means at the end of this month. And also because the second reason is that they propose a timetable that provides for an extension of the transition for a period of 4 years after the 18 months already agreed upon. So it is because of those two reasons, and because also there were several calls from the authority to the Malian authority to provide the acceptable timetable, and because, of course, no action was taken, that those sanctions were imposed. So the authority now is inviting the transition authority to provide an acceptable timetable so that the sanction can be lifted gradually. As we have said, sanctions are provided really as a last resort when everything has been attempted to achieve the result of the return to constitutional order. And I want to remind that In fact, we have been mediating with the transition authority in Mali for a period of over 6 months with our mediator, former President Goodluck Jonathan. And it's because all those mediation did not provide the expected result that finally those sanctions, which were gradual, sanctions were put gradually, but because no result was achieved, that the sanctions finally were imposed, the economic and financial sanctions were imposed on January 9, 2022. So on Mali, this really invite the authorities of the transition to provide very rapidly a new timetable that will allow the removal of those sanctions.
Meanwhile, the regional bloc also said it still has not received any election timetable from Guinea 5 months after the coup, hence its insistence for Guinea to present an acceptable timetable to return to the constitutional order.
Also look at the situation in Guinea, the political situation in Guinea, since the coup that happened there on 5th September 2021. The authority took note of the recent creation of the National Transition Council, which is the legislative body of the transition. It also noticed that almost 5 months after the coup d'etat, which was condemned, so far we have not received the timetable for this transition, despite several calls by the authority to receive that. So I think the authority reiterated the need for the transition authorities in Guinea to provide this timetable, an acceptable timetable to ECOWAS, and meanwhile also, of course, decide to maintain the sanctions that were in place already. So this, in a nutshell, the decision. Of course, there was a discussion on really this resurgence, as I indicated, of coup d'etat in the region, because we have 3 countries after Mali, Guinea, and Burkina that already have now gone through this state of coup d'etat, and 2 days ago they attempted coup d'etat in Guinea-Bissau. So of course it is a matter of concern. ECOWAS region, the West Africa region, was one of the most stable recently, and now with those succession of coup d'etat, the region is becoming, getting on the map, and this is not a good thing. It is not good for the stability, it's not good for development, it's not good for job creation, it's not good for social development. It is true that the region is facing tremendous security pressure from terrorist activities. And we've seen that particularly in Mali, in Burkina, in Niger, and also Nigeria, in some part of the countries. So it is, of course, a matter of concern, those security issues. But no matter what, as indicated, this is not really a reason for those non-constitutional change of power. So this is, in a nutshell, the main discussion and conclusion of the summit.
We return with the rest of our stories after the short break.
African Center for Capacity Building, AFCA, organizes the following executive and advanced certificate programs like Executive Certificate in Project Management, Executive Certificate in Human Resource Management, Executive Certificate in Real Estate and Property Management, Executive Certificate in Data and Records Keeping, Executive Certificate in Monitoring and Evaluation, Executive Certificate in Logistics and Transport Management, Executive Certificate in CCTV Monitoring and Installation. AFCAP, where capacity building is our priority. For registration and enquiries, please call 0244 405047, 0242135523. We have our branches in Accra, Tamale, Kumasi, and Wa. Saturdays and weekdays sessions are available. Admission is still in progress. Enroll now. Join the African professionals. AFCAP, where capacity building is our priority.
Thank you for staying. This is Pan-African Television News. My name is Ivy Abnadidinakite. Now let's return to our local stories, where Member of Parliament for North Tongue constituency and ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, has said the recent spate of coup d'etats in the West African sub-region poses a threat to stability in the area. Now he is therefore calling on government in the sub-region and ECOWAS to champion the fostering of democracy and economic development.
Delivering a statement on the floor of Parliament on the recent spate of coup d'etats that have swept across the continent, with 4 occurring in 2021, Member of Parliament for the North Tongu constituency and ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, condemned the undemocratic assumption of political power trend and called for the consolidation of democracy and economic development in the sub-region.
The erosion of Africa's democratic gains has been far-reaching. The African Center for Strategic Studies has observed that since 2015, leaders of 13 African countries have, quote, evaded or overseen the further weakening of term limit restrictions that have been in place, unquote. In addition, many elections on the continent have not been free, fair, and credible. Frequent elections have also not guaranteed genuine respect for democratic tenets. Mr. Speaker, a careful study of the Ibrahim Index of African Governance, published by the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, reveals how poorly many African countries, especially those affected by coups, are faring in the following indicators: security and rule of law, participation, rights and inclusion, foundations for economic opportunity, and human development indices. Speaker, as a consummate Democrat, I am convinced coups are not a panacea to Africa's hydra-headed and intractable socio-economic challenges. That said, we must all concede that the promised democratic dividend has remained largely elusive on the African continent. The only real solution to the coup epidemic, as the UN Secretary General calls it, cannot be AU and ECOWAS sanctions. African leaders need an urgent, bold, and robust Marshall Plan to address regional insecurity, acute unemployment, lack of opportunities for the youth, marginalization, corruption, nepotism, proliferation of arms, insurgencies, dictatorships, economic mismanagement, foreign exploitation, and clueless leadership.
Also, Member of Parliament for Abuakwa South, Samuel Atachia, added that in spite of any political turbulence that may plague a nation, coup d'etats must never be an option should an alternative be sought.
Honourable Speaker, I do not share the view that when a government which is duly elected by the people is underperforming, the solution is to have an overthrow of that government by the armed forces. I don't share that view at all. I share the view, with the greatest of respect, that the underperformance of a government, even in the areas of corruption and what we want to talk about, nepotism and all the institutions are filled by friends and the rest of it, should not be a necessary reason for coup d'etat. We know that everything begins and ends at the ballot box. That's the history of the so-called civilized countries that we're looking up to. There have been very, very serious challenges in America. Even the Watergate scandal during President Nixon's time and the rest of it. But the armed forces of America, they know overthrew the Constitution of the United States of America and for that matter, booted out the government of the day. I wish to submit with the greatest of respect that I believe it is the sanity of permitting democratic governments to perform, for better or for worse, for a long stretch of time that has accounted for the kind of economic development that we've seen with, for instance, America and the United Kingdom. Now, where the constitutional journey is punctuated by coup d'etats, Madam Speaker, you can see that somebody believes he's a savior. And you see the masses sometimes very excited that a government has been booted out. Because to the ordinary person, every problem that is going through is attributed to the government. And the euphoria of welcoming lawless men as heads of states and the rest of them, eventually, when you do a cost-benefit analysis and do serious economic analysis, as half the time, it is more of trouble than development.
Member of Parliament for Anlo constituency Richard Kwame Sefe has expressed shock over government's decision not to seek for economic assistance from the International Monetary Fund despite the deepening economic woes the country is facing. He further insisted that government has not exhibited financial discipline with state funds in the past, hence the minority's decision to reject the electronic transactions levy bill.
This IMF issue, when has IMF become a monster? When the issue of coronavirus broke out, it's the same IMF who gave us money. That time, IMF was not considered as a monster. You know, politics is what is killing us in Ghana, and greed. When NDC was faced with this challenge and we ran to IMF, you know, Dr. Baumia played on this, put a lot of spin on it and said, oh, we are incompetent and so and so. As a result, we were not good managers of the economy. And that because we are not good at that, that's why we went for IMF. So, you know, they are finding it very hard to eat the humble pie. Whether we have passed this or not, looking at the figures and the economy, definitely we have no option than to go to the IMF. The IMF will give you the discipline that we needed as a government. They will tell you not to use this, not to go this way, not to go that way. IMF will not be happy if you have your presidential jet seated somewhere, then you go for one that you can charter at a very exorbitant level. So those disciplines that will be injected into the system is what they want to avoid. You know, one thing this current government wanted to do is that they want to create problem for subsequent government that will come after them, whether NPP government or NDC government. What they wanted to achieve is that whoever will come, be it NPP, NDC, they will say, oh, during so and so's time, oh, they have done free SHS, they have done this. So they wanted this money as a collateral to go for a loan around $70 billion, assuring whoever will be giving us the money that, oh, if you give us, this is the reliable source that you can rely on for this money. You know, there are a lot of riches in the system. For instance, if an act of parliament says that, or established the road fund, if you want to negate it, it's the same parliament that you have to go to for its negation. But have they done that? So even the small, if this were to be running, if the road tolls were to be running, we'll have raked in about 18 million Ghana cedis per their own estimate. We'll have raked in that. Even Parliament was ready to increase whatever they were taking by then by 100 or more %. So you could see the volume of money you could raise from that. That one at least could construct a few kilometers of roads. That's where we are. So I think the creep for money, few people want to enjoy whatever largesse that in the system. That is causing us all this problem. As it stands today, we are still opposed to the bill. And we are of the view that what government is doing today, like holding town hall meetings and what have you, we are of the view that is more or less an afterthought. You know, we, the minority side, when we were having the break, we used the opportunity to educate our people as to the pros and cons of this e-levy. So the people understood that if the levy is passed in its current form, it's going to give them more problem. So we are not comfortable with the levy.
Let's go for a quick break. We'll return with business. Let's do business. Chief Executive Officer of FBN Ghana, Victoria Wasante, has called on the central bank to extend its directive on using the Ghana card as the only authorized model in undertaking financial transactions from July 1 through to December this year. His call comes on the back of concerns raised by some Ghanaians or customers on the directive rolled out by the Bank of Ghana.
The Bank of Ghana instructed banks specialized deposited, taking institution, non-deposit, taking financial institutions, payment service providers, and dedicated electronic money issuers, forex bureaus, and credit reference bureaus not to accept any form of identification for transaction purposes, except the Ghana card issued by the National Identification Authority. The directive also customers of the affected institutions to update records pertaining to the Ghana card with the respective institutions. In an interview, Chief Executive Officer of FBN Bank Ghana, Victor Yao Asante, disclosed that old forms of identification should still be considered till the end of the year. According to him, the time frame will give Ghanaians more room to secure the required Ghana card. He added that an extension will not only help enhance financial inclusion, but also boost ongoing efforts to strengthen and improve the financial sector.
We bring you the happenings outside Ghana after the short breather. Israel attempts to improve its public image to counter efforts by human rights organizations that reveal the nature of Israeli apartheid. Now, on January 27, 2022, the Hebrew language news site Walla published part of the text from a telegram sent by Amar, who is part of the Israeli Foreign Ministry, to Israeli embassies around the world.
The telegram warned the Israeli diplomat that in the upcoming 49th regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council, which is expected to begin on February 28, a report to be tabled regarding Israel's 2021 bombing of Gaza. This report will apparently use the word apartheid to refer to Israel's occupation of the Palestinians, according to the telegram. Westward relayed Tel Aviv's instructions regarding the report prepared by UNHRC appointed committee to the Israeli diplomat through this telegram. The main goal for Israel is to delegitimize the committee, its members and product, and to prevent or delay further decisions. After a 4-year investigation, on February 1, 2022, Amnesty International released a 280-page report with a sharp headline, Israel's Apartheid Against Palestinians. Amnesty concluded that Israel has perpetrated the international wrong of apartheid as a human rights violation and a violation of public international law wherever it imposes this system. It has asserted that almost all of Israel's civilian administration and military authorities, as well as governmental and quasi-governmental institutions, are involved in the enforcement of the system of apartheid against Palestinians across Israel and the occupied Palestinian territory, and against Palestinian refugees and their descendants outside the territory. Amnesty further said that this act amounts to the crime against humanity of apartheid under both the Apartheid Convention and the Rome Statute. Israel's Foreign Minister Yair Lapid retaliated by accusing Amnesty of quoting lies shared by terrorist organizations. As if on cue, Israel's government accused Amnesty of anti-Semitism. The Amnesty report to provide key material for the UNHRC investigation. One of the immediate issues that will be the focus of attention for the UNHRC session is Israel's Operation Guardian of the Walls against the Palestinians in Gaza in May 2021. According to a July 2021 report by Human Rights Watch, which looked at 3 Israeli strikes that were part of the operation that killed 62 Palestinians, there were no evident military targets in the vicinity. In its report, HRW used the term war crimes to describe attacks by Israeli forces and Palestinian armed groups. When the firing stopped after 11 days, the UNHRC passed a resolution in late May 2021 to establish an ongoing independent international commission of inquiry to investigate various crimes in the OPT, including East Jerusalem and in Israel. Nafi Pillay, the former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights and a former South African judge, was appointed to chair the 3-person commission, which also included Mulun Kotari, an Indian architect, and Chris Sidoti, an Australian human rights lawyer. The commission is expected to present its first report to the UNHRC in June. The commission chaired by Pillay is the 9th commission established by the UNHRC to investigate Israeli actions against the Palestinians. It has a very broad mandate that includes to study violations of international humanitarian law according to the 4 Geneva Conventions in 1949, which both Israel and Palestine are party to, and to continue to investigate these crimes into the future. It is widely expected that Pillay's report will use the word apartheid to define Israeli policy in the OPT. This will not be the first time that a United Nations report has used this term to define Israeli actions against the Palestinians. In 2017, the UN Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia released a report prepared by Richard Falk, a former United Nations Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the Palestinian territories occupied since 1967, and Virginia Tilley, a researcher and professor of political science at Southern Illinois University. The report defined Israeli policy against Palestinians as apartheid, as understood under international law. In his 2014 report, Falk had already used the term apartheid. The release of that 2017 report led to the resignation of ESCWA head Rima Khalaf, a distinguished Jordanian diplomat, after she faced pressure from the United Nations Secretary General to withdraw the report. In 2006, the Israeli government set up a Ministry of Strategic Affairs to essentially run two campaigns, one against Iran and the other against the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement. The Hasbara, explaining almost physically propaganda, ministry operated an information war that sought to delegitimize DBS activists and to paint anyone who supported the movement as an anti-Semite. Largely due to criticisms of its heavy-handedness, the Ministry of Strategic Affairs was shut down in July 2021 and some of its functions were shifted to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Ami Weshbro's telegram from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is essentially Hasbara 2.0. On January 23, 2022, the Israeli government set up a new project, Concert Inside the Foreign Ministry. This well-funded project will carry forward the mission of Solomon Sling, a public benefit corporation but controlled by government representatives, to banish Israel's image around the world, particularly in the West. Concert will be the means through which the Israeli government plans to transfer millions of dollars to non-government organizations and media houses to ensure that the reporting about Israel is positive. The legitimization of any characters of Israel is part of the agenda this project aims to achieve. The telegram sent by Weshbrod is a part and parcel of Hasbara 2.0. Weshbrod is an experienced hand, having served Israel at the United Nations in New York and as an ambassador in Jordan, besides working in various ministries in Tel Aviv. In 2011, he told Haaretz that the diplomats from most countries understand Israel's position relating to the Palestinian Authority behind closed doors, but they are not willing to state publicly what they readily say in their private meeting with Israeli representatives, which is often infuriating. What such duplicity reveals is that these foreign representatives who agree with Israel behind closed doors recognize that public opinion in their countries is against Israeli policy, but these representatives know that they must not annoy the Israelis or the US diplomat who would otherwise make life difficult for their countries. A senior Indian diplomat told me plainly that India normalized relations with Israel in 1992 because the United States told New Delhi that the road to Washington had to go through Tel Aviv. Israel recognizes that few of the countries in the UNHRC will vote against the report that is expected to brand it as an apartheid state. It will try to do two things to prevent the report from coming out. They legitimize the commissioners, notably Pillay, and asked the United States to, in March 2021, Fatah Bensouda, the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, confirmed that her office had opened an investigation relating to Rome Statute crimes by Israel against the Palestinians. There are effectively 4 Rome Statute crimes: crime of genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. Each of these crimes is horrendous. What Israel fears is that a negative report in the UNHRC might provide evidence for the ICC investigation. On January 3, 2022, Israel's Foreign Minister Yair Lapid told Israeli journalists that his government fears that this year a set of international institutions will try to portray Israel as an apartheid state. These institutions include the UNHRC, the ICC, the International Court of Justice, and the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. In the press conference, Lapid called the characterization of Israel as an apartheid state a despicable lie. 2 years ago, in June 2022, however, one of Israel's most respected human rights organizations, Yazdin, published a report with a starting conclusion. It is a difficult statement to make, but the conclusion of this opinion is that the crime against humanity of apartheid is being committed in the West Bank. The perpetrators are Israelis and the victims are Palestinians. Such statements are anathema to Lapid and Weshbrod, but according to Israeli human rights groups and Palestinian human rights groups, as well as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, are a reflection of the fact witnessed on the ground, and no amount of Hasbara 2.0 can erase these facts. Use its membership on the UNHRC to delay the release of the report.
Credit goes to our international partners, the People's Dispatch. Coming up next is sports. Now let's do sports. Match day 16 of the Ghana Premier League continues this weekend with some exciting matches to look out for. Today, the Sports Desk preview all the fixtures this weekend.
ISO Babes will aim for 3 points when they take on Real Tamale United at the Baba Yara Stadium tomorrow. With 2 games to end the first round of the competition, they have dropped to 6th on the league log. The Inshallah boys have scored 16 goals, and forward Zubairu Ibrahim has contributed half of the tally for the season. Real Tamale United are 7th on the league table and will be missing the services of hero David Sandan Abagnia, who is out with a toe injury. The Pride of the North have won only once in their last 4 outings, but their last result in Kumasi could spare them in this encounter, following a come from behind draw against leaders Kumasi Asante Kotoko. Struggling Accra Lions will host 3rd place Midiama in a crunch encounter. The Premier League debutants are enduring a difficult start to life in the top flight after amassing just 16 points from 15 matches so far. They have just won 4 games, lost 7, drawn 4, and find themselves in the relegation dogfight. Bechem United, who are in blistering form, would want to continue their winning spree when they take on Ashanti Gold at the Nana Fusuji Abo Park. Dreams FC, who lost to the Miners last week, will host Brekum Chelsea at the Theatre of Dreams. 11 Wonders have not been impressive this season and are hoping to bounce back when they slag it out with West African Football Academy at the Ohene Ameyao Park. Karela United will take on Legon Cities at the Crosby Ewa Memorial Park in Eyinase. The Pride and Passion have been impressive each time they play at home and are going to make it difficult for the Royals. Hearts of Folk, who have recruited Dennis Kosa and Sule Ali Muntari, will play Great Olympics in the Garmanche Derby. The Wonder Club, who lost to league leaders Asante Kotoko in their previous outing, will go all out in this crucial encounter. Bibiani Gold Stars will play Adriana Stars at the Dance Park. The Fireboys showed flashes of brilliance from the start, but a string of unimpressive results has led to the dismissal of Joseph Asari Bediako. Kumasi Asante Kotoko will play Elmina Sharks at the Indum Park.
Still in the world of sports, Egypt will play Senegal in the Nations Cup final at Yaounde's Paul Biya Stadium on Sunday. The Pharaohs defeated Cameroon 3-1 on spot kicks, ending the latter's hopes of a 6th title on home soil.
The fiercely contested duel was full of fireworks as both sides created numerous goal-scoring opportunities. Buoyed on by a sizable home crowd, Cameroon, who beamed with confidence and understandable optimism, dominated the first half and nearly broke the deadlock when Michael Ngaju headed home Mumi Ngamaliu's corner against the crossbar. Their lethal attacking duo of Vincent Abubakar and Kautoko Ekambi were closely marked by the Pharaohs. Egypt warmed themselves into the game after the interval, but spurned clear-cut opportunities to win the clash with Mohamed Salah and Ramadan Sobi, the West culprits. The indomitable Lions, who prevailed over Egypt in the 2017 final, failed to gel in added time as their opponents matched them both for both after 120 minutes. The tie was decided on penalties, and in the ensuing shootout, Egypt triumphed 3-1 after Mohamed Gabal saved kicks from Harold Mukudi and James Liasiliki, while Clinton Inje shot horribly wide to sum up a miserable evening for the hosts. Egypt, who are eyeing a record-extending 8th title, will meet 2002 and 2019 runners-up Senegal in Sunday's final.
Entertainment news is next. let's do some entertainment. Gasha is an act of friendship and love in Ethiopia and Eritrea. Now, the East African ceremony of Gasha is the practice of feeding one another by placing with one's hand a bite of sumptuous spicy food wrapped in the East African bread called injera gently in the mouth of one another.
Gasha is an intimate act of friendship or of love practiced in Eritrea and Ethiopia, East Africa. The practice is a bit of a culture shock for Westerners accustomed to eating from separate plates with sterile forks and spoons. The ceremony defies every social norm in the West around personal space, eating with one's hands and much more, placing food in the mouth of another, touching both the food and the one being served. The practice of Gasha is defying Western conventions around sharing a meal, speaks to a different way of engaging with the food we eat, engaging with each other around shared meals. It is instructive of a different way of being in a relationship. It enhances the notion of relational presence as a way of bringing the sacred into ordinary life, and ceremony as a rich exemplifier of relational being according to Gergen 2009. There is a story told of heaven that it is a place of banquet of food where participants in the heavenly feast feed the person seated next to them. There is a divine aspect to feeding one another. It is also an intimate act.
A beautiful culture right there. That's it for this afternoon's Pan-African Television News with me, Ivy Abnadede Nakite. Big thanks to you for choosing to stay with us and doing the watching. Follow us on all social media platforms, on Facebook at Pan-African Television, on Instagram at Pan-African Television, and on Twitter at Pan-African Television. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.
Hello? Okay,